Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call the January 28th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. Let the record state that all board members are here. Representing the Port Royal District is Mr. Calvin Taylor. Representing Western Caroline is Mr. Jeff Black. Representing Reedy Church is Mr. Reggie Underwood. Representing Madison is Mr. Wayne Akers. Representing Bowling Green, Mr. Jeff Seeley, and I'm Floyd Thomas, representing the Mattaponi District. Our first order of business would be the invocation. I've asked Mr. Taylor to deliver that, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. We can stand if you are able. Let us bow our heads. Our Father in heaven, we come to Thee at this hour, thanking Thee for the blessings that Thou hast given us. We thank Thee for this opportunity to meet and to discuss those things that prove to be of interest to the citizens of Caroline. We ask that You would give us knowledge and wisdom and help us to make those decisions that prove to be in the best interest of the majority of those that we serve. And we will be sure to give You all the praise. These and all the blessings we ask in Your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Mr. Cully, you have an amendment or two to the agenda.
We had sent out yesterday a couple of proposed additions. Consent item E, resolution opposing reduction in funding for the Planning District Commissions. And then we also have another proposed resolution on alcohol beverage control and unregulated use with which Goochland has asked us to endorse. And then also, Mr. Emerson's asked for a closed meeting.
All righty. Motion to approve the consent agenda items, please.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Could we maybe just have a very brief discussion about the boundary adjustment? Not anything in detail, but just where we are along those lines and what we need to do, or maybe when we feel like we might be able to complete that issue.
For open discussion or closed meeting discussion?
No, open discussion. I mean, I just would like for Mr. Cully to kind of say where we are along those lines and if there's something we need to do or, just an informational kind of thing.
Okay, you have that information? I think for the most part we can. Sure.
Thank you.
We will add that. We got 3E. 3E is the funding for districts. So we'll add the Goochland request for alcoholic beverages on farms and Port Royal 7A and 7B. That works?
That's fine.
Okay. Motion to that effect would be in order then.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Black. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The addendum passes. Opening board comments. Mr. Taylor.
Only that we had a past member of the Port Royal Town Council to pass away very recently, and we just want to offer our condolences on behalf of the passing of Mr. Oliver Fortune. He served on the Town Council in Port Royal and very well known, and just would like to offer condolences to his family. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I have a couple just reminders. This Saturday at 11 o'clock inside Lake Landor, the Polar Bear Plunge will be annual Polar Bear Plunge. It's usually sponsored by Wright's Chapel and the St. Mary's Catholic Church will be taking place. So that is open to the public for anyone who wants to attend. So that's this Saturday, 11 o'clock inside Lake Landor. The second thing is I will be having a constituent meeting on February the 20th with Congressman Rob Whitman, and it's a split constituent meeting. The first part of it will be taking place at 6 o'clock at County Line Baptist Church. It'll go from 6 to 7:15 at County Line Baptist Church, and then at 7:15 we will move from County Line Baptist Church to the Heritage Clubhouse inside Lake Landor. And once again, all county residents are welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. 7:15 at Heritage, or 7:30, that's when the congressman will be there?
The congressman will be at both meetings.
Okay. And nobody needs a pass to get into Lake Landor?
No, the gate will be open.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Underwood?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments. My constituent meeting last Tuesday had to be postponed due to the weather, so I'll reschedule that. I'll get with Ms. Hall and we'll reschedule that meeting. I do want to say special thanks to Mr. Parton, Mr. Cully, who did not get word of that it was canceled, and they braved the weather anyway. So just, again, I really appreciate it. Shows the level of dedication to serving the people of Caroline County. Last Sunday, I had the pleasure of attending Macedonia Baptist Church for Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. It was a well-attended, very nice program. As we move closer to budget time, I'm asking the board that we can have a work session to look at our tax relief programs to determine if they're all still applicable, and to make sure that we're doing the right things by taxpayers, but that we're also doing the right thing by the county in terms of trying to raise revenue to support all the programs within the county. And those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Akers?
No, sir, I have none.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir, none at this time.
Okay, I've just got a couple of brief ones. One is Weldon Cooper just released their estimates of population. I think it was yesterday or this morning. And Caroline our population is 29,481. And I'm sure there's 619 people we didn't count, so I'm going to ask Mr. Cully or Mr. Parton, if you could look, there are extra funds that are usually available to localities when they reach plateaus. I think 30,000 was one of those plateaus, and we can use Henrico as a model if we want to challenge that, because they've done that before. It was something I learned at VACO. They challenged the study and got a considerable amount of extra funds once they were able to prove that the study numbers were low. So if you could look through that, I'd appreciate it. And the other thing is I've asked the county staff to have each department head give me 3 goals or three accomplishments that they did last year in preparation for a county report. And I think maybe we should do it as a board. Just for a brief study at our next meeting, if each board member could come up with 3 goals and or objectives that they would like to accomplish during the year, we could spend maybe half an hour discussing those, 5 minutes per supervisor or less, just to get a consensus of where we want the county to kind of focus their attention. Because there's a lot of things, and they could be anything. I just wrote a couple down, increased school funding, reduced budget spending. There's really no right or wrong answers. We just want, share ideas. So that's the other thing. Those are my comments. I know I'm forgetting one, but I'll save that for closing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know I'm out of order, but at the last meeting, I had requested to look at the calendar for State Fair, for State Farm, of events. We talked about racing.
Yes.
That was on the calendar for February, and we were going to look at that to determine if that was, because that was part of the prophecy that we would not have racing there. So that was something that had asked to be addressed.
We'll have that out to the board next week. We're working on that now.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. Sorry, I'm out of order, Mr. Chairman.
That's all right. And because you did that, you reminded me of the other one that I forgot, and I want to express on behalf of the board and the county our condolences to Mr. Fincham. His father passed away last week. And as soon as we finish the report from Mrs. McLeod in DEQ, you're going to be excused. Okay? So that's it for board comments. And appropriately, great segue. Mrs. McLeod, We are ready for you. And the voluntary program that you're going to release us from, because our air is in great shape, right?
Not quite, not quite.
Oh, well.
But I will talk with you about it
Okay.
tonight.
I think you got a PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's in my packet.
Thank you. Thank you. Super.
Yeah, I don't know which one. That's what I was thinking. A couple of them have gone down considerably.
Let's see here. Got a slightly different version than I do here.
See on the lower right? On the lower right where it's got the little screen, that's what you want to click on to start your PowerPoint. To the left some, down, 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 left. Right there, got it. Click.
There we go.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Doris McLeod. I'm Air Quality Planner for the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. And I'm here to give you a final update on the development of the Caroline County Ozone Advanced Action Plan. This slide provides just a brief review of the program itself, which I've discussed with you at a previous board meeting. The Ozone Advanced Action Plan program is a federal program that was started a couple years ago by EPA, and the goals of the program are to reduce emissions of ozone precursors so that the air remains at a healthy air quality level, and also to help areas make progress toward meeting future federal standards. Now, this program is a voluntary program, so the gentleman was talking to me before about being released from it. At any point in time, if a county would like to no longer participate, that is certainly allowed, and at any point in time, we can facilitate that. It's simply a letter up to EPA saying that the county no longer wants to participate. So it is a completely voluntary program. The guidance that EPA released on the Ozone Advanced program describes it as a collaborative effort between state agencies, localities, and other stakeholders. And the big benefit of being a participant in the Ozone Advanced program is the fact that if air quality were to worsen, the EPA administrator may allow additional time and consideration of what is in these plans before potentially redesignating an area as not attaining or not complying with federal standards, which, when that happens, that's fairly punitive action. So that's a pretty big benefit for being part of this program. This slide provides a little bit of background on ozone itself. Ozone is not necessarily a pollutant that's emitted directly into the atmosphere. It is formed in the atmosphere when volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides are combined in the presence of sunlight. And that creates ozone, which is the primary component of smog. It's a very strong lung irritant, and it is very heavily regulated by the Clean Air Act. Caroline County is attaining the 2008 ozone standard, which is great, healthy air quality for all the citizens. And it also allows the county to avoid some of the more punitive efforts that are in the Federal Clean Air Act for areas that do not attain any particular federal standard. So this is what the air quality at the Corbin monitor looks like for the last 12 or so years. Let's see here. I have a light. And you can see this is the way EPA looks at this data is they take 3-year averages of the data. And the 10 through 12 data, that little peak that was heading up toward the red line, that was actually getting right close to the federal standard, which is 75, which is the red line on the chart. Now, the summer of 2013, that data hasn't been fully quality assured yet, but it's getting pretty close to being there. And 2013 was a very good air quality year. So the 11 through 13 number looks a lot better. The numbers come down to 71 for this area, for the Corbin monitor, and that gives the area a nice cushion between the 75 standard and where y'all are actually monitoring. So that's actually really good news.
Okay, now before you go, just so folks will know, the lower the value, the better.
Yes, sir.
On this particular slide. So we are doing better than we are required to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Here.
Oh. Yeah, just click on it there. There you go.
All right, so we did put together an action plan for Caroline County. We had a fairly robust set of stakeholders that had some very good programs that we were able to include in the Ozone Advanced Action Plan for the area. All of these programs, or most of these programs, had air pollution reductions as a co-benefit. A lot of them were targeted at things like energy efficiency, reducing energy usage and whatnot. For instance, the Virginia Energy Management Program is something that DMME oversees, and it's a program that's designed to reduce energy consumption in Commonwealth of Virginia buildings. Energize Virginia is targeted at providing infrastructure for electric vehicles and those types of things. So we had a pretty robust plan. One of the things I would point out, down at the bottom of the programs, I included something called regional reductions. And we've talked about this before. Caroline County doesn't have a whole lot of emission sources within the county itself. You know, the county's very rural in nature, and there are just very few emission sources in the county. But sometimes the air quality in the area is more dictated by what's happening outside the area. So emissions can be transported in. And DEQ has several federally enforceable programs that are kicking into gear in the next couple years. They're going to reduce emissions from certain industries and industry sectors a great deal. And we talked about some of those reductions within the plan. And I think that's a benefit for Caroline, because as those reductions kick into gear, and there are going to be several thousand tons of emission reductions over the next couple years, that should positively impact air quality here in Caroline. So we drafted up a plan and we provided it to the stakeholders in the program and let everybody review and comment on it. And we made all the changes that were recommended and sent that gussied up draft to EPA and asked for their review and comment. We got very favorable comments back from EPA Region 3 as well as the central office. And then we took the draft plan and the appendices out to public comment for a 30-day comment period, and we did not receive any comments on it. So our next step here is to transmit the final documents up to EPA. So I'm here this evening to follow up with you on the plan development, and also to answer any questions you may have on the plan prior to DEQ finalizing it and submitting it to EPA. So can I answer any questions on this effort?
Well, thank you first for the presentation. While she turns the lights back on, we've had this discussion before, and you just mentioned it, the Corbin monitor for the Caroline quality is really a mile inside, maybe 2 miles inside the county. And the maps you furnished us, it's the glide path for Fort A.P. Hill. And it's also close to Shannon Airport. And one of the slides I can't find, but there's another airport, I guess, right on the Stafford side, a smaller airport. So we don't have any control or any influence with any of that, but yet and still that's a great contributor to ozone quality. How do we get relief from that? And I'm sure DEQ has no jurisdiction with the federal government as far as Fort A.P. Hill. They may be a stakeholder, but I don't know if they're going to listen if you tell them something. So how do we control that?
Well, right now the monitors, and for the past several years, the monitors' data has actually been showing pretty good air quality. I guess I'm not quite understanding the concern there. Are you feeling like it's influenced by I-95 or Fort A.P. Hill emissions?
I feel it's influenced by Fort A.P. Hill, in particular the large transports that they fly directly over the testing station, And if you had a counter in the middle of the county, like, say, Sparta, the air would be wonderful. The air is wonderful throughout the whole county except that little spot right there, which is the glide path for Fort AP Hill. And, I mean, really, we've had this discussion before. We appreciate all the things we're doing. We all like clean air. But we're unjustly scrutinized for something that's not really our responsibility. And you just said we have no pollutants in the county.
The emissions inventory in the county and some of the charts within the plan illustrated that fact. It's very small. And to be honest with you, that includes AP Hill. AP Hill does not have a large air emissions footprint, especially when you compare it to an unlike source such as a electric generating unit. And even when you compare it to some of the bigger military bases across Virginia, for instance, Fort Belvoir or Fort Lee, that have almost more of an industrial flavor. You know, they have paint spray booths and they have welding shops and things like that, and you don't see as much of that at AP Hill. You know, AP Hill may be a big emitter in terms of Caroline County because there's not a whole lot else in Caroline County, but in terms of Virginia as a whole, it's not a significant source of emissions as compared to the overall body of emissions inventory or compared to some of the other military posts.
Have you seen one of those giant transports flying over Route 2? You have? Have you seen the Ospreys?
I was in the Army.
Have you seen the Ospreys that
Up
they're
close
flying
and-
there now?
Up close and personal.
They smoke, don't they? They smoke, don't they? They're like British cars. They smoke, they burn oil. It's not us.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that, you know, the military posts do have a presence. You know, there is military bases are not zero emitters, and I don't know that they can ever be.
Right. I just want, see, because you've explained it before to us what would happen if we're in the non-attainment, then we would have to go to,
It is a deleterious situation.
we have to go to recovery things at the gas pump. That's going to be an extra cost to the people that are running the gas stations, which means it's going to be extra cost to the people. I just really don't want the folks in Caroline County to be impacted by something that's not necessarily our fault or our doing. We support the military. We're proud to have them here, but that's not our air quality problem. Like I said, if there was a sensor in Sparta or in Reedy Church, Mattapanai in the middle of the county somewhere, it would be wonderful. Or better than it is. Well, no, I'm going to stick by wonderful. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Underwood?
I have two, Mr. Chairman. Number one, first of all, it just appears from 2003 as the county population increased, and I'm sure road traffic and those things increase, yet the pollutants actually decrease as our population increased.
Yes, sir.
Which
That
seems to be-
that is actually, that's absolutely true. That speaks
No.
to the nature of transport. You know,
Okay.
in the 2003 era, something called the NOx budget trading program kicked into effect, and that regulated electric generating units, large power plants. That was really the first program that addressed a lot of the ozone precursors coming from power plants. At that point in time, over 10 years ago, those emissions were pretty much the predominant emissions causing ozone problems. The NOx budget trading program put a lot of controls on. Virginia's electric generating units put on a lot of controls due to that program. Even though we had an increase in population across the Commonwealth of Virginia, we had emissions come down greatly, and it shows in the ozone values that were monitored at many of the monitors across the Commonwealth. You'll see that same type of
Right.
pattern just about any ozone monitor you look at.
Okay, then my second question, why is it that we cannot move why is it it cannot be moved further into the county so that we can get an accurate reading? Because if you're on the border of two counties, it could very well be coming through the air, which is what we're measuring. So why can't we move it where we can get a true reading that's inside the county?
We've asked EPA a number of times to allow us to move that particular monitor. And that monitor is a long-standing monitor, and it has a number of monitoring devices at it besides ozone.
I understand, but if you're long-standing doing the same thing wrong, it doesn't make a difference.
It provides what it does from EPA's point of view, and I don't necessarily disagree with EPA's thought process on this, is that it provides an upwind monitor that provides pretty good data to the Metro DC area. So it was originally cited as a monitor that was providing upwind information to Metro DC. Now, we have recently talked with the EPA about potentially shutting down the site completely. There is no denouement of those discussions as of yet, but if something does break in that situation, I would certainly let Mr. Fincham know.
Okay, thank you.
Break is in, well, never mind. Any other, Ms. Taylor, questions?
No, you covered what I was going to ask when you talked about locations. That's all.
Mr. Black? Mr. Akers? Mr. Seeley?
Yes, sir. I know that we have submitted a plan, and I guess in the plan you listed a number of programs that the Caroline Action Plan contents.
Yes, sir.
So if we were to go over the 75 parts per billion in ozone, and we had to implement, and I was just looking at these like the Energize Virginia or the Virginia Management Program or the Virginia Get Ready Project. I mean, we don't have anything to actually implement these on. So what would then happen?
Those programs are actually in the process of being implemented regardless by DMME and Virginia Clean Cities. What we decided to include in this plan, because air quality was improving, were programs that were already funded and were already being implemented so that there was no additional burden to either the county or the other stakeholders. We have a lot of really good programs coming down the pike that are already funded, that are already in place, and some of them are already actually being implemented as we speak, that are being done for reasons not necessarily 100% for air quality. They're being done for other reasons. They're being done for military readiness, or they're being done for energy efficiency or infrastructure purposes. And they provide very good air quality benefits. And those are the types of plans we've included in here. We're trying to show through this plan that air quality in Caroline is good, and with all the programs we've already got on the books, air quality in Caroline should be getting better with no additional outlay of resources by Caroline or these other stakeholders.
I'm just making sure that we're not like Energize Virginia. We're not going to put, energy efficient and renewable energy projects and programs. I mean, I don't even know where we would apply that or who we'd apply that to. And I guess that's my concern. I don't have a problem that it's in the plan and that, we're part of a bigger state plan, but my concern is if we had to implement any of these, I wouldn't even know where to start.
No, sir, those are being implemented by DMME and other agencies, and we've already got those on the books, and what's being implemented is already on the way.
Okay.
So if air quality were to worsen, which I think is highly unlikely, but if that were to happen, what this plan does is it gives the administrator something to point to. The administrator could point to it and say, look, we're not going to go through the hassle, because it's a hassle on the federal part too, don't get me wrong, to designate an area non-attainment when we know we're getting 3,000 tons of NOx reductions from Allied Signal Hopewell. And we're doing that by 2016. We know that Invistas is switching out their coal-fired boilers, and we're going to get 3,000 tons of NOx reduction by 2017. Let's see what happens in this plan before we go ahead and put the kibosh on a county that doesn't deserve it.
Okay.
That's the purpose of this plan, is to hopefully provide a little bit of a buffer from that happening.
Those are my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. McLeod, we really thank you for your time. We know you're on our side, and subsequently we signed up for the volunteer program that would delay any action by EPA if we went that far. And the reason we did that is, like I said, it'll be, gas prices will go up, we'll have to get our cars inspected for gas emissions, things they have to do in Northern Virginia. We don't really have to do those. And to be honest, when you make the turn on Route 2, the air actually does smell better when you come into Caroline. So we'd like to keep it that way. We're going to go forward with this volunteer program, but as you can see, the numbers are coming down. If you would just understand our concern about,
Yes, sir.
hopefully, nothing will happen to the site in Corbin, but we will get you a site in Sparta if you'd like, after that one breaks. So, again, thanks for your time. You're going to work with Mr. Fincham, and
Yes.
Mr. Fincham will work with us to follow up.
Thank you.
So again, we thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great evening.
We're going to try. It's not snowing, so drive careful.
Yes, sir. I sure will.
It's not snowing yet, right? He's probably going to Richmond. Okay, appointments. We have a community policy and management team, and that was, we had two people that were there, Social Services Director and Jeanette Currens of the Health Department. And both of these had to be appointed by the board. So, and you don't say they're willing to serve, but those are two we had to appoint to round out the team. Motion to that effect would be in order then?
I make a motion that we appoint Tani Christensen and Jeanette Currens from the Health Department to the CPMT team.
Second, please. Second. Okay, motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Underwood. All in favor of the appointments to the Community Policy and Management Team, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries. Consent agenda, A through F.
I just have one question. F is a donation to the polar bear plunge?
Yes.
Okay, is that to be added to the fund for monies, for fuel, or I just...
Mr. Black has asked for that. I'll let him explain that.
Excuse me, the Polar Bear Plunge, the money goes to, if we
Well,
approve this, the money would
yeah,
go to Wrights Chapel, United
Let him
Methodist
explain
Church. And it's divvied out to different charities from within the county. And it will go to different churches, St. Aslip's over here in Bowling Green, the St. Mary's Catholic Church, Wrights Chapel. They would divvy the money out. It goes to the different churches' emergency funds. Some churches do. I think Wrights Chapel does heating for people who can't afford it. St. Mary's does a food pantry. And I'm not sure what St. Asaph's stuff is over on the Bowling Green side, but it's all for emergency purposes for, it's their emergency funds for people
So
in
we are
need.
adding that to the fund, is my question.
Yeah, we'll give it to, it would be a check from Caroline County to Wrights Chapel, and then they would divvy it out
That's fine.
however they would so choose.
I just wanted to know what it was. Okay.
All right, so we should have just pulled that and had discussion, but is anyone else have a question on F?
Yeah, I do. My only comment there is I think that there are many church affiliations and organizations that help us assist residents within the county, and I think maybe we should look at each possible organization that provides some services within each district, and maybe have a fund that we would help within each area. That way, we could help. There's plenty of need within the county, I believe. I think churches do a wonderful job, so I think not only we look at this, but I think we look at, I think it's, for me, it's kind of wrong to just say this is the only need, when I think there are other needs that we could still set in service as well. That's just my thought.
And in that sense, to follow up, if there are other needs like this, especially as we get into the budget process, because we don't have a specific budget line, if there are other needs like this that are identified, then we could bring those to the board and discuss those, and probably give them the same favorable nod, is really what you're saying. Okay. If the board has no problem with that, and you want to move on, and that's the consent, we'll move on. Mr. Akers, you Have a question?
I have a comment.
Comment?
I understand where Mr. Underwood is coming from, and I understand what you've said, but I think there needs to be some criteria set as to what you're going to be given to and for what causes. I can tell you there are more than thousands of groups that could say, I can use money, and I will do this, and I will help that group, and I'll help this person. So before I would like to see, or before I would vote to start just giving money away, I know what this cause is about. I know the Rice Chapel, I know the pastor, I know what they're trying to do. But I think that before I would vote to start just giving money to groups, we need to set criteria as to what will be accomplished in giving the monies away. And that's my comment.
That's exactly what I was passing to Mr. Cully as you were making your comment. So, any other questions on F? Is the board ready to approve the consent agenda or pull any other item or any item, period? If not, understanding that we're going to ask Mr. Cully to look at criteria for future donations of this nature, motion to approve the consent agenda would be in order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Black, seconded by Mr. Akers to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. Mr. Underwood was the dissenting vote. All right, we're not going to take a 45-minute break. We're going to do real quickly agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 7 is discussion of the county administrator's upcoming performance review. We are not going to do his performance review in public right now. We are just going to, unless you'd like us to. No? Okay. I mean, you might. Okay. What we have this on the agenda for is in the past, and we haven't had a performance review for Mr. Cully yet. You've been here almost 2 years? March? In April. Okay. So we're doing this, well, let's wait till they finish. Well, you go ahead. Okay. We have just in our board packets the performance review form from Mr. Cully. He's going to complete that form. Each board member is going to complete that form, and we will have a closed meeting at the end of our February meeting. Does February look crowded? It looks crowded? You want to do it in March, the first week in March? February looks crowded, and the weather's not going to be any better, so we'll probably be trying to get out of the snow anyhow. All right, we'll do it the first meeting in March, which would be the 11th. Okay. That was the only thing we had there. Let's do agenda item number 5, which is the...
7A, 7B.
Oh, let's do 7A and 7B since we're on 7.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Parton. 7A, we got an email from Goochland. They sent it to me. I thought they sent it to all the board members. All the board members got the email. It's basically, Mr. Cully, you did a little more research. I'll let you explain it.
Well, our concerns after talking to Mr. Fincham are the same that Goochland has, is that this would open up events on property without any regard to the size of the event or and no standards such as parking or control of an event. That would be an alcohol beverage license because it's a farm brewery license. Right. And while we're not opposed to farm businesses, I think just to exempt completely all standards in zoning from those could lead to this being established, and you have a couple hundred acres and 5,000 or 6,000 people show up to some type of event. It may not happen here, but I mean, without any control somewhere. I mean, so I think that's with Goochland's concern that's been passed around the state. Everybody, zoning is there to protect the citizens as a whole. And so if you just start from Richmond just saying zoning doesn't apply, right, without really any forethought to standards and regulations, those rules for parking and gatherings and safety are there for a reason. So I think that we would certainly, from staff level, encourage you to be opposed to and see if we can get this bill amended and some forethought put in that Goochman's put in.
Yeah, in our cover letter, they had some bullet points. The one is it's local land use authority is gone, permits unlimited brewery activities without regard to large crowds, and it allows the entire property to constitute a licensed premises. So if you got 200 or 300 acres, you could use that entire thing. And it really takes away local authority. So the folks in
question.
Goochland asked us, yes.
And I guess it's maybe, Mr. McCullough, you know, does this have anything to do with the bill that Bob Marshall from Prince William, or are there any connections to the bill he's introduced? I know that there was an issue up in Fauquier County about a lady that ran a vegetable stand there on a farm, and the Fauquier Board of Supervisors, they went in and charged her so much for violating their ordinances. Is this all tied together?
I don't believe it is directly related to, and I believe that was Delegate Lingenfelter's bill last year.
It's in this year, too. Bob Marshall.
But there is also a bill, you're correct, about agritourism and agribusiness that I think share some of the similar traits with the language in the bill and the problems from an administrative perspective in the county. On the one hand, they're saying you can't have zoning regulations except where it's for public health, safety, and welfare. Well, that's what the zoning regulations by code are designed to address. So, yeah, the two bills together, I think, are a potential issue for not only Caroline, but any local government.
What I would like to maybe see us do is we have some opposition, or we have opposition to what is being proposed. Do we have any thoughts about what would be acceptable to what they're trying to accomplish and what the General Assembly is trying to do? If we have some thoughts as to things that would be acceptable to the board, and then I think we should make those suggestions as to if you feel like you have to change the ordinance in order to protect the farmers, then at least keep these issues in mind.
Yes, sir.
Rather than just flatly saying we oppose what you're trying to do. I don't know if that's going to make any difference with them, but I think if we try to give them some alternatives, some other suggestions, they may be more willing to accept what we're saying.
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of what we have in the resolution. The resolution mentions the things that they're saying are local land use authority, unlimited brewery activities, and that's basically what we got from.
No, I know, but if we talk about 5,000, there may be a crowd limit that we can accept, and let's put that in there. We would accept a crowd limit up to, something along those lines. What we're saying is we're opposing these particular provisions that you're putting into the bill. I just think we need to have some alternatives.
We don't actually have any official breweries run on farms at this point in time in the county.
No, sir.
And we don't have we don't have a category for brewery in our text, right? We would need a text amendment.
Other than what's other than a business, okay? You're right. Out in the rural areas, there's nothing there. In the business district, it would fall under one of our existing designations. This bill speaks to rural areas.
Well, that's us.
Right.
Mr. Fincham,
Rural zoning
where
districts.
would a winery fall if somebody were to apply for a winery in Carolina?
It would be permitted in the ag district. The state code has said.
By right.
And what they did, they modeled the brewery provisions after the farm winery provisions. That's where other localities have had issues. What is an event that's customary and incidental to a winery? Hot air balloon rides, et cetera, et cetera. That's where localities have struggled with the regulations as they have been written by the General Assembly.
But the wineries that are in Virginia, they're limited to wine tastings in their facility. I don't remember, I know a couple of folks that own them, they can't have a wine tasting on the corner of their property necessarily.
Right.
Is that not true?
I'd have to look at that, Mr. Seeley. I know that Mr. Akers mentioned Fauquier. I know Fauquier has had some issues with the language and tend to be at odds with some of their legislators on how that language is written.
Right.
But I can check on that for you.
Because I do believe, I mean, I saw language in here that being able to grow hops and fruit, I mean, they can grow whatever they want on whatever land they've got. There's no issue. I was amazed that is it 15,000 barrels they're allowed to produce a year? I mean, I don't even have an issue with that as long as we know that they're a brewery and that's what they're actually going to do there. But I guess I read this a little different. I didn't realize, and I didn't see where they could consume any place. So I didn't know how that assumption was made.
I've got some ideas on the language, as Mr. Akers had discussed, and same with the other language related to the agritourism that I think would be, could be considered for both of those bills, and I can forward that to Mr. Culley or to Eldon James, Mr. James, to discuss that.
Yeah, why don't we, I think we'll do the same thing we did last meeting. We'll let Mr. Fincham get those numbers or what he feels comfortable with into a resolution, Mr. Culley, and then we'll send the resolution in. We'll just make sure the board is copied. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fincham, and thank you, board, for the extra items. 7B, Mr. Culley, we're talking about the status of the Port Royal boundary adjustment, and as far as the county was concerned, we passed it.
Right.
I'm working with Ann Neal. She'll be preparing the agreement. There's actually got to be an official agreement that both the mayor and the chairman of the board will have to sign that goes in with the packet of material to the court. Also, I found out from Ann Neal that they had, Bill Wick had asked could they use some existing surveys if they were fairly modern, and they have agreed, I think, Ben, you were part of that they could use some existing, not have to survey meets and bounds every inch of the bound. If there was a fairly modern survey that they could tie to, then they would only have to survey the new lines and or any property that hadn't really been surveyed recently. So that's going to save them significant dollars, is my understanding, because they had gotten a price to do the whole works, and it was fairly expensive.
And that's all I wanted to know. I had gotten a question regarding the boundaries and so forth, but since that's been dealt with, that's good. My concern is just that we do whatever it is we need to do. I just wanted us to hold up the progress. Thank you.
You made it happen, Mr. Taylor. You made it happen. We're basically waiting for them.
You're too kind.
So, all right, Port Royal, animal shelter, flooring. Is that you, Mr. Parton?
Well, it can be. Who you want to do it?
He always does cats and dogs, so.
I may have to call Mr. Lambert, but we do have a request from the sheriff's office, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, to install a new type of coating on the a test area of the animal shelter floor. As you know, we've had problems with the every type of surface we've tried there for years, and I think the sheriff's office feels like they finally landed on something that will work, and they would like to authorization to move forward with prime coat flooring, again for a test case that's equivalent to about the size of one kennel run in the amount of $7,420. And I think the plan is to study how it works for a year, and provided that it does last the way they expect it will, to come back at that time and resurface the entire shelter.
Let's go.
We have been, once again, in violation of state law due to the floor, and so we are working with the state veterinarian's office to get this test in so that we can hopefully get that study for that the next year. So they want us, obviously, they've got all the rules and regulations about pounds in the floors and the walls and all that kind of stuff. So we're hoping that we've submitted this idea to them, that they will, buy off on it, because we really hate to do the whole facility and find out it doesn't work any better than what we've been doing in the past, especially seeing how it's more expensive. But what they're proposing to do is more than has been done in the past, other than one time y'all did put all new concrete down and paint it, and it didn't stick. So this will be a grinding of everything off, cleaning it all down, and I guess getting a good adhesion and a different type of epoxy mix than what's been used in the past. And this is a kennel floor company. I mean, this is what they do. It's a national, they go around the country doing this type of work. It is expensive, but I think we really need to try this, because the state's not going to let up on us, of course, when they come and do their inspections, if we've got these problems with the floor.
Doing this test process will eliminate this or delay any state action? Is that what they've said?
That's what I'm hoping. We haven't gotten that commitment yet, I don't think.
I think we've had the discussion before that hope is not a strategy.
I know. We submitted it to them in a letter, that's what we want to do, but they haven't blessed that strategy yet. I mean, they always have the opportunity to come back and say, you're in violation. We've done one run, and we've got all these other runs that still have problems. But that's our plan to work with them, and they haven't fined us yet, so they have been working with us to, and so I think we've shown good faith on doing the repairs and the things that they've asked us to do. This is the one major problem that we have there, and we didn't want to just spend a significant number of dollars repainting the floor just to have it peel up in 2 or 3 months and still be right back where we were.
How many runs are there?
20?
It used to be 24, is that, Tim?
24? 24
60.
times 24 times 7 is going to be $168,000.
I don't think it would be that much if we were to do the whole. It's more expensive because they're only doing a smaller portion. I think if we'll bid out the whole process if it looks like it works and see if we can get the price down.
24 times 7 is still a lot of money.
So 16, he's saying, there's
Are you saying
actually
16 runs?
Yeah, that's all that we've got to do.
Oh, well, that makes a big difference.
I mean, wouldn't it be easier to replace the concrete and then put the sealant on than tear off what's on the concrete now? I mean,
That's what he's doing.
are we replacing the concrete, or are we just
No.
chipping off what's there?
I think they can grind it
Grind-
off.
grinding
They
it
got
off.
one of those floor grinders that grinds concrete. That's probably easier than jackhammering it out of there. Plus, we still have to operate.
How big is a run? Let's say you did an end one that, you could actually section off.
Anybody have any idea on that? Roughly.
So we're talking in the neighborhood of $100,000 to redo this floor.
4 by 12 is what we're estimating.
What would it cost, Mr. Whiteman, to cut that floor out, pull that concrete out, pour new concrete?
I'm not for sure if the slab is part of the structural building, because I wasn't here when it was done,
It
but
could be part of
you'd
the
have to
foundation.
remove all of the fencing, chisel, jackhammer, all that out, come back in and pour. The labor would be intensive. Concrete would be cheap, you're talking $85 a yard, but the labor,
Yeah.
removing the fencing, removing the crete, pouring the crete, putting the fencing back, the labor would kill you.
We're not going to have to remove the fencing to do the grinding, you don't think?
They're grinding, it's kind of like when we refinish the floors over here. Diamond tip, inside, they're not treating the outside, just where the animals stay.
Because that's where the health issues are, is where the animals stay.
Yes, sir.
The outside, normal weather takes care of that.
All right.
All right. We're still talking $100,000 for this flooring here. 112 is 16 times 7.
Unfortunately, I think the state is running out of patience, and we've been cited for it a number of times, and they're willing to work with us, but eventually their patience runs out.
But I mean, I'm only saying that for the fact that if we, because I think there's somewhere where the state could fine us $500 a day or something like that, if they come in and say, we're going to fine you, we have to find $112,000 to do the whole thing.
That's if it works.
No, we just have to try to do it right away to alleviate the fine and then go back to the old hope it works, which I don't think anybody likes that approach.
We can't be the only ones with an animal shelter that's got this problem. I mean, is there something unique to this animal shelter that's causing this that everybody else isn't having?
Yeah, I've often wondered about that, Mr. Seeley, because to me, there must be, because everything that we've tried, and we've tried 4 or 5 different approaches, to my knowledge at least, nothing ever seems to work. I don't know if it's, wasn't there some type of a landfill there at some point? I don't know if
Yes, there was.
that contributes to it, but nothing seems to work.
Right, we did that already. We did that once. Okay. Yeah, there was a landfill there because I remember burning my hair back when I had hair. So, okay. We're going to go ahead and do this as a test case. You're going to let us know as soon as possible if there's any contact with the state.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully we'll have something between now and the end of the year or the next year to see if it works. Okay. Any other questions? So I guess we need a motion to go ahead and do that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Taylor. We've had discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Can we possibly do 6? Or you want to save 6? All right. How long's the closed meeting? Okay. Section 22-11A. All right, we're going to do the closed meeting next. So we'll do the closed meeting, take a break, come back at 7:30. And at 7:30, when we come back, we'll do public comment. And then we will go right into the public hearing on the repeal of the hunting ordinance. So we need a motion for legal consultation and briefings by staff.
You want me to read it?
Section 2.23711A7, the Code of Virginia pertaining to specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice and/or pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body with regard to the collection of water availability fees owed to the county by Ladysmith Water Company. Motion to that effect would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Akers, that we go into closed meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. We will be in closed meeting. Thank you very much. That's Jeff's responsibility. Gentlemen, we need to come out of closed meeting, so we'll need a motion to come out of closed meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Seeley. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carried. And there is no action out of the closed meeting. Yes, thank you. Mr. Taylor, do you certify that only those things we went into closed meeting were discussed?
I so certify.
Mr. Black, do you certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
And I so certify. So that takes care of the closed meeting. We have public comments, which is the next agenda item, and on that item, anyone who would like to address the board on any issue that is not a public hearing may do so. Then we're going to have the public hearing on whether the county should repeal Chapter 56 of the Code of Caroline. So as a quick show of hands, who would like to speak to the public hearing on rifles and hunting? Sir, you need to please have a seat. Where is Mr. Lambert? Are you our deputy for today? Okay. Sir, would you have a seat now? We will address that shortly. All right, so once again, I'm sorry, the people that want to speak about the hunting for rifles, would you raise your hand, please? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 30. Okay. All right, thank you. It's starting to snow. There's about 20 people that want to speak. That will be an hour worth of comments. We're going to take whatever you have, but I just want to make sure. So we will go to the public comment section. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time on anything that is not the rifle hunting ordinance? So the gentleman that wanted to speak about the budget, if he had a question about the budget and would like to speak now, he may do so. I'm not really mean. I just have to, I'm slow, so I have to keep things in track.
No, I'm teasing.
Now, please state your name.
Sure.
Your voting district.
Sure.
And your time will start.
Sure. My name is Don Filsuf. I'm Bowling Green District, and I wanted to know how much do we owe in the county? I hear 119 million. I hear 150 million. I hear 190. And as I understand, it might be going up. The way I look at it is this. If I to pay $150 million in debit, then everybody else in this county, they have to pay $20,000 each. And according to Mr. Underwood, the last time, he said only 33% of people in this county pay their taxes on a timely basis. It means the ancillars and others who pay their taxes, we have to come up with $60,000. I just want to find out if this is this fair, or are we going to go bankrupt in this county? Really?
Okay. Well, is that it?
That's about it. But, you know, I mean, we need to know where we are with this. You know, this is really a serious matter, and it affects everybody in this county.
It is very serious. We appreciate it. We don't normally debate during public comment. That's why I asked you if you were finished.
Okay.
So if you're finished,
Yes.
thank you for your comments, and we will make sure you have the information. I'm going to actually finish with Mr. Cully. So if you'd like to take a seat, we're good, and I'll ask anybody else, and at the end, we'll answer all the questions.
Okay. Well, I thank you for that.
My pleasure. Actually, my job. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding public comments? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding public comments? No one else would like to speak regarding public comments? The public comment section is declared closed. Mr. Cully, I believe on our website we have the county debt service numbers.
We have the, it's not up to date with the latest borrowing, but we can put that together and get that to him.
Okay. What is
Latest
the
borrowing being the school debt.
school borrowing of $26.2 million?
Correct.
And what was it before that? One, Fran?
I don't like doing numbers off the top of my head. I'll be
Okay.
glad to send that to him.
Well, I'm going to correct that too. All right. For school barn. Okay. Let me make sure I heard you. You said it was 122. And then it went down to 119. 115. And now we've added 26 million plus
6.5.
32 million, so it'll be 148. That's the 30-year debt number. Okay? And we will make sure
I have his address.
we've got your address, and we'll make sure it's on the county website, and I'm sure the local newspapers have that reported at least once or twice, but we'll make sure those numbers are updated. We're not going to ask anybody in this room to pay $150 million. We're all going to pay our fair share like we've all been doing. And we're not going bankrupt because we're not the federal government. We actually do balance our budget every day or every year. Mr. Underwood's specific comment was 30% of the people in the county pay, I think it was 95% or 100% of the taxes. It was 90-some percent. Right. So, right. So there are some people who pay more than their fair share, and there are some people who don't pay what would be their fair share. That's kind of the way it works, but we are trying to make it as equitable for everybody. I think that's enough on the taxes and the budget. We'll be starting, the budget will come in February, and we will have a budget work session, several budget work sessions We will also have a public hearing on the budget, so again, we invite you to come back and make comments then, or contact us before then. All right, I guess you're all here for agenda item number 4, which is the proposed repeal of Chapter 56 of the Code of Caroline County, hunting, and this really just affects rifle hunting or deer hunting with rifles. We got some emails, I know I did, about one of the hunt clubs and hunting bear and coyotes and things like that, and I believe you can hunt those with rifles now, anyhow. You can't? You can't? If anybody shoots a bear with a rifle, I will testify on your behalf. Okay? Promise. All right, we will, who's our, is that you or? Mr. Parton, you're going to give us the overview, then we'll have board comments or board questions, and then we will open the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to give you a brief background prior to the public hearing. As you indicated, the subject of tonight's public hearing is the possible repeal of Chapter 56 of the Code of Caroline County, which pertains to hunting. By adopting Chapter 56 of the county code back in 1989, the board at that time, what they did was chose to exercise its right to place more restrictions on hunting in Caroline County than what is specified in the state code. The additional restriction added by Chapter 56 is a prohibition against hunting with a rifle of a caliber larger than .22. There is an exception for hunting groundhogs other than during the general open season for hunting game animals. If the board decided to repeal Chapter 56 of the county code and not replace it with another local ordinance, then all restrictions on hunting in Caroline County beyond what is specified in the state code and a few regulations promulgated by the Board of Game and Inland Fisheries would be removed. And since all of these state restrictions and regulations already apply in the county and would continue to apply, the only real impact of repealing Chapter 56 would be that the hunting with rifles larger than .22 caliber in the county would be allowed. That's a little background, Mr. Chairman, on what we're contemplating tonight. And with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any board questions at this time? Clarify my statement before, Mr. Parton. We can not shoot other animals with a rifle now, and we would not be able to even if we repeal this, right? We would be able to if we repealed it.
If you repeal it, you would be able to use a rifle.
Okay.
In accordance with state law.
All right. Thank you very much. No board questions? All right. We will start the public hearing. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you would like to speak, the first person who gets to the podium will need to state their name, their voting district, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. If there is one person at the podium, we've got the first row is actually open to save us a little time. If the next person or next few people that want to speak would come down to the front, that would be great. So, at this time, I will declare the public hearing on the repeal or proposed repeal of Chapter 56 for the Code of Caroline County, hunting to be opened. Okay.
Chairman Thomas, members of the board, my name is Gary Gray. I'm in Bowling Green Voting District, and I put together a little brochure for you to cover some of the information that we're going to discuss tonight. And one of the things is I'm a member of the Safari Club International, and I have a commitment, and that commitment is to further the ethical practices and fellowship of those who hunt big game, to work for the conservation of all animal life worldwide, and to help educate others on these principles. That's a very important part to me. Been appointed by the governor to serve on the Department of Game. I've been certified by the NRA as a range safety officer. Gathered the information on the hunting incidents in the state of Virginia for the last 5 years. The first 3 pages represent self-inflicted accidents, and the next 7 pages represent two-party incidents. Over the last 5 years, there have been 6 incidents in Caroline County. In the last 5 years, there have been no incidents in Spotsylvania, Henrico, or Stafford. They all allow rifle hunting. The last page behind that was prepared by Dr. Trejos. It gives the stats from 2007 through 2012, showing that we had 140 accidents with shotguns and 43 accidents with rifles over that time frame. So it sounds like with the number of hunters that we have out there, that really the number of accidents is fairly low. Of course, the objective is to get to zero. To give you an explanation that from my perspective, I'm not promoting trying to hunt near subdivisions or around large groups of people. There's a picture of a typical deer blind that would be hunted from. Under the bottom side, you can look and see the deer feeding. When you notice looking at that picture, you can see that any shot that would be fired would directly go on the ground, so it wouldn't be a stray bullet. Same thing with the next page. You can see that basically there could be shots made there up to 400 yards, no buildings, no houses, no people, no obstructions. If you move over to page 3, if you look at that top panel, that panel is a 4-foot by 4-foot panel. It was shot at 100 yards with double-aught buck. Not a single pellet hit that panel. That panel was shot at 50 yards with double-aught buck. There were 15 pellets. Of the 15 pellets, one was close to the little orange sticker, but you can see the other pellets scattered about. Typically, that same shot with a rifle would actually hit the orange dot, especially at 50 yards, but probably at 250 yards. The bottom picture shows a typical hunting rifle. Basically, it's a bolt-action gun. It gives a comparison of a 30-06 round compared to a 12-gauge shotgun round. The next page gives you some of the qualifications I've had in shooting. I've probably shot over 100,000 rounds with a shotgun. I've competed in the World Ski Championship, the U.S. Open, the Craig-Off Masters, the Great Eastern. So I have experience with shotguns, but also spent a lot of time in training with the rifles. The next few pictures show management programs that basically, as we move to an organized hunting, the rifles are very effective in deer management. The next picture shows coyotes and bobcats.
Mr. Gray, I'm going to have to ask you to summarize.
Okay. I will move to the summary immediately. The number one question is, why would I want to see rifle hunting in the county? We allow rifle hunting today, and that rifle hunting is permitted for groundhogs. We also allow muzzleloader rifles to be used today. That's a 50 caliber rifle, has capability of shooting 250 yards. The difference between a muzzleloader and a centerfire rifle is, to unload a muzzleloader, you shoot it. To unload a centerfire rifle, you take the round out. So from a safety standpoint, I think a centerfire rifle is safer. It's more effective. It's the charge, the way it's designed, is a more effective charge. The disadvantage to a muzzleloader is it's only one shot. So assuming that you're an excellent shot, you make a perfect shot, great. But assuming that you don't make the perfect shot, it takes over a minute to reload, centerfires pretty quickly.
Mr. Gray, I have to be fair to everybody, and 3 minutes is your time. So I'm going to have to end your time, and I will give you the opportunity to say you are in favor of repealing this ordinance or opposed to repealing this ordinance.
I'm in favor of repealing this ordinance,
Okay.
and I'm available to answer any question if you want to stay here until midnight. So you let me know what you need, I'll help you out.
I appreciate it, and I hope not to take you up on that one.
So,
So thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, again, state your name, your voting district, and then your 3 minutes
My
will
name is
start.
Richard Mills, and the voting district is Mattapanai, and I'm in favor of repealing this ordinance,
You're in favor of repealing it?
repealing it.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Joe Thomas, Bowling Green. I'm not in favor of repealing it. I have a concern with all the publicity that's going on to get this done tonight. We all have friends, neighbors, and other citizens of this county that don't like hunters. They don't like dogs running across their property, and they don't like to hear guns going off. There are organizations like SPCA that do not like dog hunting. We have people in Richmond, Washington, and New York that would love to see our guns taken away. I think we as hunters need to be a little bit smarter and not put all of this information on the front pages. It's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. Going back to the rifles, as far as population control or herd management, I don't have a problem with the herd at my house. We killed 5 deer off of the property this past year, my son and I individually, and I don't know how many the hunt club got off of it. We don't have that many deer to worry about, so herd management's not a problem. As far as ethical hunting, if you can't hunt with a bow, a black powder rifle, a slug gun, or a shotgun, ethically, rifle is not going to help. Only thing that's going to help is what's between the ears. I'm just not in favor of going to it. I thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening.
Mr.
My name is
Wachtmeister.
Albert Wachtmeister, Port Royal District. I'm in favor of repealing this ordinance.
Thank you, sir, and I'm sure Mrs. Hall can spell your name.
My name is John Filsuf. I'm in Bowling Green District. I wrote a note last Thursday to all the Board of Supervisors. I have a copy if you'd like to look at it again.
Okay, if you'd like to pass it to Mr. Parton, he'll make sure we get it. I think we have it, but
I Googled, some of the numbers that people have been hurt using rifles in hunting. There are about 1,000 people have been injured last year in U.S. and Canada, and about 100 people have died. Using, rifles is not a safe way of doing business. I think what we have in the books is a good idea. Shotguns and muskets should be the one to be used to hunt, deer. That's about all I have. I just, don't feel comfortable, especially when you have, folks standing on a roadway, and these roads are so narrow. And if you drive in, there's another car coming the other way, you never know who you're going to hit. It just, got to be some, restrictions applied that if they want to hunt, on the roads to somebody's property. I surely don't want anybody standing next to my property and shooting towards my property. That's just not going to happen. I hope not. And if you decide, to go ahead and approve this, please, think about, other things, what we can do to improve it so nobody would get hurt. And thank you for your time.
thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Collins?
Alan, passing a map around the state of Virginia with those counties that are east of Interstate 95 or below the fall line for the rivers. People know what they are. You get into the flats, as we call it, the flat lands. So I wanted you to see that. Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Al Collins, Bowling Green District. Areas east of Interstate 95 or the fall line have expansive areas of flat land where rifle or shotgun rounds will travel to the maximum projectile ranges. Therefore, the majority of the counties have said no rifle above .22 caliber. On this map that you are now seeing, those counties east of the fall line are outlined in red. And if you go to your hunting magazine from the Department of Inland Game, that you cannot use above .22 caliber weapon in those areas that are outlined in red. And believe it or not, there's a total of 22 of them. Those outlined in black, only 8 counties, you can use weapons above the .22 caliber. The reason for that, of course, is the maximum projectile range of the rounds. Today's Hunter magazine shows that the range for rifle is in miles, gentlemen, miles. That for the shotgun is in feet. Okay? Very important. And I say that again, shotguns are in feet, rifles in miles. An example, of the rifle with its shortest shooting range with a long 22 will go 1.25 miles or 6,600 feet. When you're standing out here in the intersection, go north, it goes all the way up to 207 and 301. You go south, it's 721 where you turn to go to Sparta. With a shotgun, the double-aught buck or the old buck, 3.38 from a mile or 2,000 feet. Go north, you go to Edwards Funeral Home. South, you go to Ace Hardware Store. Longest range, that was the shortest range. Rifle, 30-06. I've heard that many a time. 3.5 miles is the range. 18,000 feet. Go north, you're going up to VDOT, up the road north of Bowling Green. You go south, you're at the Mackinac River. From the intersection right out here. Shotgun, longest range is a 1-ounce slug, 0.7 of a mile, 3,700 feet.
Mr. Collins, I'm going to have to ask you to summarize.
Okay. Population in Caroline County has doubled in the last 30 years. I do think it's hit, you've got subdivisions built up, and if I were to be out there a mile down the road and somebody's shooting a rifle, I think that I would suffer a serious injury or possibly be killed. I therefore am against repealing this goal that we're doing, and I ask you to please vote so and do not repeal the section that we own. And those of you out here who support me, please stand. Okay, sir.
That was very good, Mr. Collins.
Well, after all this folks standing, it looks like I'm pushing water up the hill with my nose, but good evening.
Won't be the first time, and I know just how you feel. So state your name, your voting district.
Mr. Chairman, Board, good to have the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Tom Tubman, and I'm from the Mattaponi District. And without going into ballistic coefficient and how far a rifle will shoot, let me say this. There's a caveat in the state and a number of the counties that if a rifle is used, you can actually require that it not be used in any place other than a stand no less than 10 feet above the ground. I'd recommend 12. Also, with regard to shotgun, I found 2 deer in my beaver pond behind my house over the last 8 years. One of the deer was a real pretty buck, except the rack on that deer was massacred by buckshot. The doe, same story. She looked like Swiss cheese. I can control where I put a rifle shot. I can't control where I put buckshot. I've actually broken the law in the county and got a ticket, so you can take this for what it's worth. I was let off. Charges were dropped. I paid court costs. I was using a .44 Magnum rifle with an 18-inch barrel. That won't go any farther than your average 12-gauge shotgun. A .22 will kill you a long ways off when it bounces off of water, and it's very good. It's as good at doing that as a stone is. Safety is a critical issue that we all have to deal with when we're hunters. And I can put a 30-06 at 300 yards in about a 2-inch target. Not everybody can. There's a whole lot of people out there with a shotgun at 40 yards that cannot put that shotgun slug in a pie plate. We're looking at safety here. We're also looking at a humane kill. I'm not going to take the 3 minutes, but I can make a much more humane kill with a rifle located 12 feet off the ground than I can with a shotgun or buckshot. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't even see 2 inches at 300 yards.
Good evening, board members. My name is Dakota Taylor. I'm from the Bowling Green District. And I've lived here in Caroline County for my entire life. My father has brought me up to enjoy hunting outdoors, especially for deer with bow, black powder, and shotguns. I've been reading a lot about Caroline County possibly changing the laws to allow deer hunt with rifles. In my opinion, I feel that there is a greater danger to our fellow hunters if we allow rifle hunting down here. Rifle shooting can go much farther than a shotgun shot. I'm blessed to have around 7,500 acres where I can hunt. I've hunted both land and woodlands, and I can see others on the open land that a rifle would be okay to shoot. But what about the woodland areas where maybe there's a hedgerow? You don't know what's on the other side of that hedgerow. If the rifle is passed through the hedgerow, it could harm other hunters and possibly kill them. Go look at the lay of the land down here in Caroline, opposed to the other surrounding counties. We're a whole lot flatter than them. I personally would rather take my chances on a straight buckshot at 150 yards through a hedgerow than take my chances with a 30-06 at 400 yards through a hedgerow. Remember this when you consider this change in the law. In wooded areas, this can change. We can hunt a stray Take
your time.
Does not go as far as obstacles, which would take the shot out, buckshot, trees, branches. Will block the shot. However, a rifle could pass right through it. I do not see any benefits with rifle hunting for deer. Please remember this as yourself, as hunters also. Would you feel comfortable allow people hunting in Caroline County, unfamiliar to the land, to allow them to shoot a high-powered rifle? In my heart, if this law is passed, I feel like you're opening the chances of harm coming to our county. I feel safety should come first, and I will not hunt with rifles.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, you said you were from the Bowling Green District?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Robert Mitchell from the Reeder Church District. I guess I'm looking at you from another point of view from tonight. With this deer hunting stipulation, I've heard great concern and I've heard great comments from other people in the audience. I think it needs to come to a compromise. The safety issue is the number one thing that we need to make sure that we stay safe while we're out here in the field. When you have black powder, bow season, regular shotgun season, each one of those have a set period of time. If you want to allow rifle season during any immediate time during the deer hunting season, I think it should be set to a separate 2 weeks or a week and a half to a month, according to whenever the game laws is available. That way you'll have the concern of most of your bow hunters, your black powder hunters, and your regular dog hunters out of the woods into the point where there's less people in the woods for safety. A gentleman spoke tonight about being elevated. Several other counties have. I know Goochland just approved it, and Rico has had it for years with the population they have, and an elevated stand is almost a must for safety. Shooting flat in this county, I'm really not too hipped on the idea. I'm a avid dog hunter, and I don't want to be hunting 500 or 1,000 acres adjacent to some field that a guy has a rifle that's capable of shooting 350, 400 yards, and he cannot see what's beyond his point of view, and I'm abiding by the law, doing what I enjoy, and then get struck. At 400 yards, for me to get struck with a stray buckshot pellet, that's the odds I take, but the chances are slim to none. At 50 yards, yes, you are definitely it. So if you're going to allow, and I'm kind of leaning on both sides. If you do repeal this action, please make sure that you have some regulatory method of either having the person elevated or either having a set period of time as to you have a rifle season, a black powder season, a bow season, and a regular gun season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Well, that was really nice.
My name's David Napier, and I'm from the Madison District. Before the clock starts running, I'd like to thank the board. So many of y'all sent cards and prayers on the passing of my mother, and I appreciate that. I'm here to oppose the repealing of the law and the use of rifles in Caroline. I know the rifles allow killing a deer at a greater distance, but to me this is contrary to the fair chase ideals that we were taught when we were younger hunters. Killing a deer 400 or 500 yards ain't much of a fair chase to me. I don't like it. I don't like it for its safety issues. I think a muzzle loader is a happy medium. Muzzle loader, a bullet, is a blunt bullet. It's a round bullet. It's a flat bullet. Even though it can kill a deer, it's a round bullet. It's a flat bullet. Even though it can kill a deer 150, 200 yards maybe, the bullet dies out. Whereas a high-powered bullet like a 30-06 or 270, a very sharp, pointed bullet, goes a long way, ricochets, continues to go a long way. It's a big difference between the two. Now, while a high-powered rifle does let you get another shot or two off, anyone here that's killed a deer with a rifle will tell you, be it a muzzleloader or a centerfire rifle, most times you're not going to get but one shot. You need a rest to shoot at a deer with a rifle. You're not going to get that rest. That deer's not going to stand still for you. Shoot him twice. If you were to allow rifle hunting and impose stipulations, I think this is asking a lot. I mean, you're going to shoot a rifle, but you can't shoot it if a dog is running it? Do you have to be 15 feet up in the air? Do you have to be so many feet from roads or homes? My question is, who's going to police this? As far as I know, we don't even have a game warden assigned to Caroline County now, which I believe to be true. There may be one assigned later, but how in the world are we going to police this? It'd be impossible. And if you were shooting in an elevated stand, you still could shoot a deer at the top of a hill. It's not necessarily meaning you're shooting down on the ground. And we're talking about a projectile that can go miles. I think it's just the benefits are far outweighed by the potential disaster. I don't think with the relationships we have as hunters with property owners, even property owners who don't allow hunting, they tolerate us. I think you're going to have as much opposition to this by landowners as you do by hunters. And I think hunters objecting to yet another method to harvest a deer speaks volumes about what we think is a danger. I know things can't stay the same forever and ever and ever, but as more people move in, and even more so, let me back up a little bit. When this law was put into effect, it was based on the terrain of the county, the flatness of the county, and that has not changed over the years. So I think it's something we really need to consider, the spirit in which it was enacted, and that's the spirit in which we need to keep it. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Napier.
Good evening. My name is Ken Pickin. I'm from the Sparta District Voting District.
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. I voted Salem Church. I'm in Sparta District.
You're in the Sparta precinct. You're in the Bowling Green District.
Thank you. I've been asked by the club that I belong to, the Center Point Alps Tigner Hunt Club, to come up here and speak on this agenda right here. We have approximately 65 members, probably more than half that are local, and we are opposed to any change to this thing that's coming up. It's been going on for a number of years now, since 1989, and on behalf of our club and myself, we'd like to leave it to stay the same. Thank you.
You sent the board a petition, didn't you? You sent the board letters. You sent the board a letter.
Okay.
From the Cat Hunt Club.
Thank you.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, the next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Jason Spencer, Bowling Green District. I'm also with the Central Point Alps Tigner Hunt Club. I'm the one who sent the letter to you.
Oh, okay.
And I have a copy of that as well. If no one got it, I can.
We've got it.
Okay. The only thing that I want to add to what I've placed in the letter and what's been said tonight, again, I'm opposed to it as well as the club. If you decide to put regulations and stipulations on this, you're stipulating to the ethical hunters. The unethical hunter is not going to listen to it anyway. No hunter that I have spoken to about this is going to be walking to their tree stand, see that massive buck as they're walking to or from their tree stand, and not shoot it because they're on the ground. As well, you've got those dog hunters who are, at the end of the day, we're driving around, picking up the last few dogs, and you see a deer that's 400 yards away, I'm going to throw a shot out at that. That's the concern that we as a hunt club have, and I'd just like for you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Trish Parker. I'm from the Port Royal District. I'm opposed to repealing the law, and I'm one of those landowners that Mr. Napier was talking about. My property is surrounded by land where hunting is allowed. I can see a deer stand from my house. I'm not opposed to hunting, but I am opposed to being shot by an errant bullet from a hunter that I can't even see. Life is dangerous enough. Please do not repeal this law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Next speaker. And if there are any more people who would like to speak, if you'd like to make your way down to the front, we'd appreciate it.
Joe Parker, Port Royal Voting District. And I just want to weigh on the possible change in rifle usage in Caroline. My family and I are not opposed to the changes, or we are very opposed to the changes being proposed. We are not anti-hunting folks, but there's a big difference between using a shotgun and using a high-caliber rifle, as you've heard most of the gentlemen state already. We are surrounded at my place by large farms and a lot of flat land and a lot of hunt clubs and AP Hill. And so far, we've not had a lot of problems, with the exception of a few hunting dogs here and there, which mostly we've gotten back to the owners. So we don't really have a problem right now. Currently, and you already know, you can't hunt within 200 yards of a home or business, which is good because that's about as far as a shotgun will reach. Rifles changes that game big time. As a person who does a lot of portraits at my home studio, most of which are done outside, and believe it or not, we do a lot of them in November and December, and even some here in January. I would be concerned, and very concerned, about photographing families that might be exposed to a hunter with a high-caliber rifle. Most hunters are very well trained and know what they are doing, just like most drivers of cars. But we all know that not everyone is a good driver or a good shot. Big difference. I think it would be very unnerving to have to worry about being shot by a hunter I can't even see while walking on my property, working in my garden, or photographing in my yard. I do not think that the rifle usage would be compatible with my business or my family's own safety or any clients that might come to my business. Therefore, I urge you not to support the change in the firearm rules at this time. It's like you're trying to fix something here tonight, and there's nothing really broken. You know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, Linwood Broadus, Bowling Green Voting District. I think a whole lot of good things have been said tonight, and I'm not going to repeat them, but I am going to repeat something I heard last week. As one gentleman said, a soccer ball going across my property is one thing, a bullet is something else. So I am opposed to this. I'm opposed to repealing this ordinance. I think shotguns are much safer. And another thing that's going to add some dynamics to this, and I'm also opposed to this one too, but it's very likely that Sunday hunting will pass the General Assembly this year, and that's something else that's going to make it even more interesting. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Broadus, and we're going to talk with Mr. Fincham about Sunday hunting in the county, which is another subject. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Nancy Filsuf. I'm from the Bowling Green District, and I want to let you know that I am opposed to repealing this Chapter 56. And I'm not going to repeat everything. I just want to tell you from a homeowner loving the country point of view, I enjoy hunting season. I don't hunt. And I like to hear the guns shooting and the dogs barking. I think it's part of the country. Because I know when I hear them far away, I'm not afraid. I'm a little nervous. I got my orange hats. I think I'm going to buy one for my dog, but we're doing fine so far. One afternoon, though, we were walking around. I try to walk 3 miles. I'm proud of that. Still I'm trying. 3 miles. And my dog and I, the dog is a large dog, looks almost like a little deer if you are far away. And we heard the hunting guns go off, and I'm fine with that. And I'm hearing the dogs, and they're getting closer and closer. And the next thing I know, thunderous noise is coming, and I am riveted with my dog, with our mouths open, seeing at least 6 or 7 deers go by, hunter's dream. And the dogs are chasing them towards Sparta Road. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. But luckily, the deer were lucky. There were no hunters on that side. The dogs chased them in the wrong direction. So Kelly and I breathed a sigh of relief, and we realized that we lucked out, and so did the deer. But what I'm afraid of is that we have, if we repeal this law, and I'm hearing the guns, I can't use my property. I can't go for my walks in the afternoon with my dog, because I have no idea if that bullet is going to reach me because they missed what they were shooting at. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not opposed to hunting. I think that's a great sport, but I would be opposed to using these high-powered rifles. I mean, where's the sport in that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Filson. Next speaker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Brian Crowley, Port Royal District.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. I won't reiterate a bunch of scientific stuff like I did last time. Everyone on the board's heard my position on that, though I will allude to that. First, I want to say I'm really upset that we're all here talking the way we are about this. This issue, unfortunately, kind of brings hunters against each other. We've heard from hunters on both sides of the issue here, and I'm hearing a lot of stuff about ethics, and it's absolutely true. If you don't have ethics with a lesser weapon, you won't have it with a rifle, but I'm hearing it so much, I'd almost think there's concern over an ethics problem amongst the hunting community here, and I don't think that's the case. So I hate that it almost seems to pit us against each other. There's a lot of emotional arguments here, which are from valid points. I'm not saying emotions are bad. Certainly, having lived both in suburbia and in the country, and glad I'm back in the rural areas and farming and loving it, but having lived in both, I understand those concerns in more congested areas. I actually hail from the state of Pennsylvania, which has quite a few counties on both its flat side and its more mountainous side that have greater population density than here. And I will mention that they only have one area in the entire state called the Southeastern Special Regulations Area that are limited to shotguns, and that is specifically the 3 counties that comprise the greater Philadelphia area. A lot of more populous areas still allow rifle hunting, and flat areas like that. What I would ask, though, is that whichever way you go in considering your votes on this, that we don't rely solely on emotion. There's also some science involved here. As I said, I'm not going to get long-winded about any of that. I'm available for questions, but once upon a time, in history, we as a human race thought that a projectile fired out of a weapon basically traveled as far as it possibly could to its maximum range on a flat line and then stopped, fell dead, and dropped. We're past that now, so I would also ask that in those aspects that have been discussed tonight that you base your votes on science. Whether it's a shotgun or a rifle, it has a maximum effective distance, but it has a coefficient, a ballistic coefficient that was mentioned, and so we're not going to get into it again, but they don't go that far when I'm aiming straight at you. You're not going to stand here and hit something on 207 on a straight line level with the ground. But I'd ask that we base it on science as far as that stuff. On the record, I am for repealing this, but as I mentioned last time, if repealed, I think there should be some restrictions. Specifically, I especially don't think that rifles should be allowed for dog hunting. I don't think any ethical hunter with dogs would even want that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm John Pratt in the Port Royal District. As I've told you before, I'm a long-time, our family, a long-time resident of Caroline County, on a farm just below Port Royal, and strongly am in favor of repealing Chapter 56 of the Code. It would allow me, as a property owner, the option of rifle hunting, and the people who are on my property to rifle hunt. Would not take anything away from them. They could continue to deer hunt with dogs. But the main thing is the hunting I've done, both with shotgun and rifle, I am much more effective with a rifle. I'm much safer to anyone around me when I'm shooting with a rifle. The shotgun is great for bird hunting, But for deer hunting, in my mind, rifle hunting is definitely the safest way to go. So again, I recommend and request that you repeal Chapter 56. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Hello. Mike Trejos, Bowling Green District. And again, I just been hearing a lot of hyperbole about rifle ranges and stuff, and for a 30-06 to go that distance, somebody would have to shoot it at Santa Claus's flying reindeer to get a rifle to go that far. If you're in a stand shooting down to the ground, it's going to hit the ground. It's not going to go any distance at all once it hits the ground. The ethics of using a rifle over a shotgun, I can tell when the guys are using shotguns as the deer runs down through the terrain. I can hear 3-shot bursts as they're spraying buckshot down through the woods. It's shoot and maybe hit something. With a rifle, you're not shooting at a running deer. It's usually a standing object, and you're much more accurate with that. So I'm much in favor of allowing a rifle shooting in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. And again, if there's anyone who would like to speak, and while there's someone at the podium, feel free to make your way down to one of the front rows.
I'm Maynard Penny from Bowling Green District, probably one of the older people here. My problem is safety. On my farm, where my wife likes to walk, she can not walk during the week on hunting season, she's afraid she'll get harmed. If we put in Sunday hunting, she's afraid to walk 7 days a week. With a rifle, somebody can be off on somebody else's farm and unintentionally. They wouldn't shoot intentionally, but unintentionally could harm my wife, which would upset me greatly. I'm not against hunting. I'm not against using a rifle. I just don't think this is a good idea to change something that has worked for a long time. And I would ask that y'all not change what is working now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Yes, sir. My name is Steve Hatcher. I'm from Bowling Green, and I would very much in favor of passing and changing this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hatcher.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, my name is Kenneth Berry. I'm from the Bowling Green District. I am in favor of repealing this chapter. I've heard a lot of comments about the rifles and the shotguns, but one major difference hunting with the rifle, ammunition is expensive. People that own rifles make sure their rifle is zeroed. They can hit a dime at 100 yards. So we're not even going to get into what size deer are. But with the rifle, shoot one time, kill your deer, go home. With the shotgun, you're out there all day long with these hunting clubs and shells. The average club, I would guess, shoots 40, 50 times a day. They have a bigger chance of creating damage as opposed to the rifle. That rifle is extremely accurate. I'm an ex-military, ex-law enforcement, and I'm very familiar with the use of firearms. And rifle hunting is very safe. Most people that hunt with a rifle are hunting from a stand, mostly elevated, and they take their time and they do what they're supposed to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Is anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Thomas Richardson. I'm with the Bowling Green District.
What was your last name?
Richardson.
Richardson.
And I'm against it. I travel to the mountains every year to rifle hunt. And something that hasn't been mentioned, we have 2 public hunts in Caroline County. Spotsylvania don't. Hanover don't. They use rifles. As a young man over here said, you can shoot towards him with a shotgun, he'd take his chances behind a shrub. Here on these public hunts, I wouldn't want to take my chance with no rifle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Is Is there anyone else who would like to speak? While Mr. Green makes his way down, if there's anybody else who'd like to speak, please come to one of the front rows. Mr. Green?
Chairman Thomas and members of the board, my name is Richard Green, and I am in the Mattaponi District. And it's kind of tough for me to come up and speak. Number one, Mr. Gray I work for, and number two, I go to Salem Baptist Church, and there are a lot of church members and friends here that are like brothers to me and friends. And so, kind of like Mr. Crowley here, it's kind of tough because you don't want to ride both sides of the fence. The one thing that I really find interesting, though, that I'd like to share is that nobody has really addressed the fact that Caroline County uses rifles 10 months a year. Nowhere did I hear anybody say, this gentleman was hunting groundhogs in his field, and I feared for my life walking during the summer. Most people I see walk during the summer months, typically not November, December, January, which is hunting season. Again, I have a very logical approach in what I'm thinking. So, again, people that I know target shoot all year with rifles. There's nothing against shooting your rifle, target shooting, you know, that sort of thing. My neighbor just opened DK Firearms right up here. I can't tell you the number of rounds that go off in my neighborhood. But again, nowhere have I heard anybody say, hey, they were groundhog hunting and a stray bullet hit somebody. My question to you is, how long have we been allowed to use rifles during the entire year other than deer season, and how many reported accidents are there? To me, that's the real question. It doesn't make any difference to me, quite honestly, because I DJ weddings on the weekends while everybody else is playing hunting. So, again, look at what's there, and I don't hear anybody here saying anything like that. So what we're talking about is adding the ability to take a deer or a bear or a coyote with a rifle during open arm season. We're not talking about the other 10 months of the year. Based on what I'm hearing and what everybody's standing up, we should outlaw guns, rifles completely for groundhog and everything else. I mean, honestly, I'd like a show of hands of how many people have hunted rifles to take groundhog. Okay? And how many reported accidents have there been in Caroline County since 1989 shooting groundhogs with rifles? I mean, so anyway, again, it doesn't make any difference to me, but I try to look at the obvious, look at the statistics. I mean, I studied it myself. You know, all of the accidents that I've seen, quite honestly, have been with buckshot. Fort A.P. Hill does not allow you to shoot buckshot. So there are people that say, you know, I'll take my chances behind shrubbery, you know, at 100 yards or however many yards. But again, you know, the federal government, our Army says, hey, we're not even going to allow buckshot, but yet we're using it. So, I don't know, just, it's a tough decision. I know everybody is very emotional about it, but, you know, in the end, let's just try to use logic. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman and Board, my name is Bert Chenault, and I live in the Bowling Green District. I guess you could say that everybody has a right to make his own opinion. But I was thinking before this meeting that if this is appealed, or even if it's not, you look at the landowners in this county. If he wants to go out Friday, Saturday evening by himself with a rifle, but why couldn't they use rifle if they're not hunting with dogs? You know, I wouldn't approve of anybody hunting with a high-powered rifle, hunting with dogs. Because I know from experience, when a deer comes or they see a deer, especially if it's a big one, you kind of lose your train of thought, what's going on, and you're far away. But if you weren't hunting with dogs and that deer was standing still, you could have a pretty good chance of killing one. And I know, and y'all know too, Mr. Trejo's has property down there that from one end of his farm to the other, he could go out and shoot a deer. But if somebody was running a dog, you couldn't just shoot that deer. And I wouldn't be against it, but I'd like to see some restrictions on it that you can't use rifles with dog hunting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chennault. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? I can't even see who that was, but
Can I have my last 30 seconds that I didn't use earlier?
we don't usually go back, but if you find somebody else you can give it to that hasn't spoken before I get to 3, we're okay.
Sorry, not that it would be because the question posed from a speaker, Mr. Green, would be
Did you speak already, sir?
that I've already spoken. Is that my 3 minutes of fame?
Nobody really gets 3 minutes of fame, and even if you get it, you don't want it. Trust me. All right, we're gonna let just people who haven't had an opportunity to speak let them speak, and then we're gonna have some discussion, and we may indeed ask people questions. So give us that opportunity first. But we're trying to take as much input as we can from all the folks that are out there. So I need to ask if there's anybody else who hasn't had an opportunity to speak that would like to. Now is your time. And I'm going to ask 3 times and then close the public hearing. So time number 2, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, hearing none, we will declare the public hearing closed. And let me say 2 things first of all before we get to board questions. One is a personal thing for me, and I think all of you folks will agree. I believe in a document that's 200 and some years old that says the Second Amendment, you have the right to bear arms. So we all support you in that sense. We all believe that hunting is justified, something, and I like to eat, so I like deer meat. I like the end result of your hunting too. So we're all in favor of the Second Amendment, and the other thing is we're all family. There's hunters that have hunted with each other for years, and it doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on, we're all family and we're all in this together. So we tried to take as much input from you as possible, and we're going to deliberate a little bit and try to make the best decision we can. So, Mr. Taylor, did you have any comments you wanted to make or questions you need answered?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question. I do have a few comments.
Feel free to make them.
That's permissible.
That's fine.
First of all, I would like to just say thank you to all of these citizens who have come out tonight to voice your concern. I think it just speaks volumes about Caroline County and its citizens and the concern that they have. Now, of course, as an elected official, I would just love to do what everybody says and let everybody be happy and we can all go away, and that would just be great. But we know in the real world, it sometimes, or most of the time, doesn't happen that way. I'm not a hunter, and I have learned a great deal about hunting since this issue has come up. I've read about it, and I've talked to a number of citizens about it, some in my district, some in other districts. And I can say, for me, the issue is safety. And I know that there is nothing that's 100%. But from my standpoint, as I sit here, it only takes one person to get hurt. And if I felt that that injury happened as a result of an issue that I voted a certain way on, I couldn't deal with that. I would love to see hunters be able to do what they want. But I know that there are situations and issues, and there are rules and laws, and it all depends on who you ask. We've talked about the rifle and how long, or the length that the bullet goes, and we talked about how it descends, and we talked about the shotgun, and we could go on and on, and I could ask question after question, and my answer would vary depending upon who I asked. But I don't think anyone in here wants to put anybody in here in any immediate danger. And I'm just not convinced that if we repeal this, we would not be putting our citizens at risk. I really have a concern about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Black?
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate at least a couple things that Mr. Taylor said. First of all, when you're an elected official, this has been one of the most passionate issues that I've dealt with since I've been on the board. I've gotten emails and petitions on both sides of the issue, and I guess in a way I had mentioned earlier, it is kind of civil war. This is gun owner versus gun owner, what is right and what is wrong. I have I represent the western side of the county, and I've talked to several people who are hunters regarding this, and people have various opinions. I guess when it comes down for me, a couple of things. The state code of Virginia says that rifles are allowed, and counties can make the ordinance more strict. One of the issues we got in our board packet, we got a list of hunting incidents. I didn't use Mr. Gray's information tonight, since 2009. And two of the counties that I noticed that stood out where rifle hunting is allowed is Stafford and Spotsylvania. Stafford has a population of 129,000 people, with a population density of 477 people per square mile. Spotsylvania has a population of 125,000 with a population density of 301 people per square mile. In neither one of those counties has there been a hunting incident with rifles or shotguns reported since 2009, that information. The other thing that I noticed is I went through last night and I looked through this, we got this, and I highlighted the list of fatalities. I wasn't just looking at hunting incidents, I was looking at fatalities. And I could be, reading this, it was late last night, I counted 14 fatalities. Of those 14 fatalities, 9 were with shotguns. And 3 were with rifles and 2 with muzzleloaders. And if that's the case, do we repeal shotguns? Because the statistics in incidents as well shows that hunting incidents on this, there were 116 with shotguns and 35 with rifles. So that says to me that we're getting more problems with shotguns than we are with rifles. I don't want to repeal shotguns, that's not what I'm saying. But as far as a safety feature is concerned, I would like to defer to a couple of things that both Mr. Green said and Mr. Crowley said. I truly believe that a person, and I'm not a hunter, but what I've talked to, I believe that a person who is a rifle hunter is a precision hunter. So that's a big thing. The other thing too, and Mr. Green hit on it, and I was going to mention it, unless I'm wrong and I'm reading the ordinance wrong, I can go out for 10 months of the year and hunt a groundhog with a rifle. So my concern is if I can hunt a groundhog with a rifle in flat terrain, why shouldn't I be able to also hunt a deer? Those are some big things for me. And that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For me, it's a matter of listening to our citizenry about a feeling of comfort and safety within their personal environment. When you hear citizens talk about walking their property and they have an element of fear, it does concern me. I do know that we can hunt groundhogs with rifles on your property. So we do sit on both sides of the table at times, but I guess the comment that's really kind of set for me is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's really what kind of registered. There are good points on both sides of the argument. But again, I go back and say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Akers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pardon, I don't know whether you're the one to ask this or not, or whether it's Mr. Cully. Several people have mentioned certain provisions. Now, it's my understanding that if we repeal the chapter or the ordinance that the county now has, we are saying we're repealing the ordinance. So it's not an opportunity for us to go back unless we have another public hearing, unless we go through another process of saying, let's make changes and put in conditions.
That's correct.
So tonight's meeting is not about that. And I've heard several people talk about the muzzle loaders and what have you. I was on the board back in '89 when that was approved. Maybe I made a mistake then by approving muzzle loaders. I don't know. I didn't think so at that time, and I don't think so now, but maybe I did. But I'm not sure that I'm willing to make two wrongs here in the process, if I did make a mistake there. The other question was about groundhogs, and I've heard several people mention about groundhogs and those type of things. And I realize I wear glasses, and I realize my eyesight is not real good, but I can assure you I cannot see a groundhog as far away as I can a deer. And so you're not shooting the distance trying to kill a groundhog as you are the deer. And it's not the people that are in this room here tonight that I have a concern with about rifle shooting. I think most of the people that are in this room are precise hunters, or they're precise shooters, and I have no problem with that. It's the amateurs and it's the people that I think that will get out and try to become the professionals that you are in the hunting process that creates a problem for us. I personally live, and certainly I represent a large portion of the western side of the county where the growth is taking place in the Lady Smith area, and I'm just not willing to take that chance on rifles. I don't believe it's in the best interest of the people I represent, and certainly not from the people I've heard from. I've heard from many people, telephone as well as email. I've had one person from my district to say, I want you to support the rifle ordinance. And so in representing the people that have let me know how they feel, I just don't believe it's in the best interest of Caroline County or the people I represent for this ordinance to be amended.
Thank you. Mr. Seeley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've spoken to probably a lot of you over the course of the time of this, and I've done a ton of research, a ton of reading. I was a rifle hunter as a kid in Pennsylvania, grew up in Ohio, always hunted in Pennsylvania, and I understand the necessity of rifle hunting and understand why we would want to rifle hunt over shotgun hunting for those who enjoy rifle hunting. And the folks that I've spoken to are people that own family firearms, that are rifles, that are antique, post-1900, pre-1900, would like to have the opportunity to use those to hunt. I completely understand the folks who are fearful of a stray bullet, but we also, anything can be stray, so I don't want to just harp on the strayness of any particular projectile. And I will disagree that muzzle loaders aren't necessarily round balls. They can be pointed projectiles as well. I saw a 50 caliber round that I was really amazed at for a muzzle loader. But I will say that hunting is a necessity in Caroline. Dog hunting in Caroline is a necessity. We have a lot of low land. We have a lot of wetland that if you didn't have dogs, we'd have a bigger deer problem that we got. Some of the things I pointed out to some folks is that insurance rates are based on deer hits, and a lot of people don't realize that we end up paying increased car insurance on deer hits. And as those go up, and the guys that are in the auto business can tell you, or in the auto repair business, body shops, will tell you that they can tell you when rutting starts and when it ends by what's in their shop lot. And as that number goes up, we're all going to pay for it in the form of car insurance. I've talked to the commander at AP Hill about the impact area and how we need to increase hunting there. I've talked to a number of farmers about crop damage. The one thing that I did learn about crop damage is you can shoot deer with damaged tags, non-deer season with a rifle. I don't know if everybody realized that. I didn't. I've done a lot of looking at it. I was surprised, and I'm surprised at the number that rifles are used to actually take down the population in the summer. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. As you may or may not know, the board was asked to consider this, I guess at the end of last year. Mr. Gary Gray, who's on the board of Game and Inland Fisheries, came to the board and asked us to look at this. We didn't have any time last year to do it before hunting season, so we told them we would look at it now. Now we're actually looking at it, and as Mr. Akers referenced, there are, well, this is either all or nothing. Either we repeal it and let the state statute stand, or we keep it the way it is. There were some great ideas that came out of your conversations. Stand only, stand no dogs, specific time period and things like that. How do we enforce it? Those are all great comments that we could conceivably look at if we had the opportunity to do it as another public hearing, which the board may decide to do or may not decide to do. The other kind of question is, there was a lot of comments about groundhogs. You know, we can hunt a groundhog with a rifle. And I can't imagine any of you folks getting together with 10 or 20 people saying, let's go out for a groundhog hunt. You know, you're just doing that probably in your own yard, or somebody else has called you and said they got a groundhog we need to take care of. It's not an organized effort to go out and hunt groundhogs. What you do have is an organized effort to go out and hunt deer. So the safety issue is my concern. I'm not a hunter, but I do own several firearms. Well, I am a hunter. I just shoot snakes. And I shoot them as quickly as I can, as often as I can. But that's all I do, and as I told one of my neighbors, I never shoot towards their house, and it's snake shot. So it's like buckshot. It's only going so far. I think we're looking at something that we may progress to. But for me right now, I think it's a safety issue. I don't want anybody to ever be hurt hunting. And if somebody's stray got hit hunting, odds are it wouldn't happen. But if it happens, you know, it's right back to here, and all of us in this room decided, okay, this is the way we want to go. That may happen with shotguns, but that's basically the law that is now. So I would like to look at it a little more, which we may do. This is one of those things that it's not forever. If we pass it now, as we said to Mr. Gray and Mr. Green the first time, we would have the opportunity to repeal it next year if it turned out to be a problem. Or we could not pass it now and find more data to see if it's something we want to do later. But right now, I'm concerned about the safety aspect, and that's my biggest concern. But we each have expressed their concerns, and I'll ask if there's any other questions the board has of Mr. Parton or anybody who spoke, if they'd like to have those questions addressed. If not, we will entertain a motion either way. So if there are no other questions, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we deny the proposed repeal of Chapter 56 Code of Carolina regarding hunting.
Second.
Okay, the motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Taylor, is to basically deny the repeal, which would mean keep things as they are. Okay, everybody's clear on the motion? Discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion to, I guess, not repeal, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay?
Nay.
The chair recognizes a 5-1 with Mr. Black as the dissenting vote. So we will, did you vote nay?
Yeah.
You voted aye?
I voted aye.
Okay. Mr. Black was the only nay vote. So the motion passes. We are going to, at this time, keep the hunting ordinance as is.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seeley.
with the vote already taken on that, do we still have an option of amending Chapter 56 at this public hearing to allow coyotes, wild boars? We've done a public hearing on Chapter 56. So we can't amend it.
You want to do coyotes,
I wanted to use rifles for coyotes, wild boar.
bears?
You can't. Bear is a general hunting season.
Hey, the bear shows up at my door. The bear shows up at my door.
Yeah,
Oh, I got
go
some
to
other
the shop.
stuff. I got some other stuff. I'll tell you everything.
But we do need to fix
We need to look at that.
Chapter 56 for coyotes, wild hogs, and potentially, I think bobcats is a nuisance species.
So we can look at adding those in and permit rifle hunting for those
Exactly.
by having another public hearing. Right. Is that sounds fair? Is that what the rest of the board would like to do? Have another public hearing to allow coyotes and wild hogs and
I think nuisance
bobcats?
species bobcats. Well,
I just think we'll let this thing handle a bit and come back.
okay.
Come back and we'll let.
6 months or so?
I don't know if there's going to change any votes.
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. So
Got to be published.
we can discuss this, but we'd have to make a decision by May 1st, well, probably before May 1st.
You have to have your public hearing decision in time.
Before May 1st, so then it gets into the May 1st hunting book.
And that's what I thought we were going to be able to do, piggyback this.
Why don't you look at that, and we'll discuss that in February, and if possible, if the board wants to, we'll put it on the March public hearing, if that's what everybody wants to do.
Okay.
I just think that, personally, I just think that we need to let this thing, let it go for a while. You've got people that is on each side. They either know we are not going to repeal it, or we are going to repeal it. There'll be no question in people's minds.
Well, there's no doubt, we're not going to repeal it as it relates to deer, because that's what we just voted on. I think they would all, there's probably not much of a split if we say yes for coyotes and other nuisance species. But I think 30 days would be enough, or 2 months is enough to let it, to have us have time to look at it again. So we can look at it again in March. Mr. Seeley, have an option to bring it up again and discuss it. And if the board wants to do it, we'll do it. If not, we'll wait till next year. All right? Last agenda item is agenda item number 6, the YMC debt service payment, and that's Mr. Cully. I think, did you get information from Mr. Akers today? Okay.
I didn't tell you. I told you, that's what you wanted.
Okay, I'm the only one. Well, all right.
Anything new. As you are aware, we have a payment due February 1st on the debt service payment of $103,000. I think I passed out, Pam may have passed out at your place. We currently have $2,250 in the proffer fund and $4,792.90 of interest that's occurred on the balance of the money that was borrowed, which if you use that and applied it to the debt service payment, it would be $96,057.10 would be the appropriation needed for the February 1st payment.
And Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, there should be a $10,000 check coming. I was told last week that it was being presented to YMCA. There's a $15,000 check that's going to be coming probably next month sometime. The total 103 is not there, but it would bring it down to about $70,000, $75,000. And I've instructed when the money comes in, we used to pass it on to you. And there's another $1,200 that have come in, individuals sending, $500 and $200 contributions.
Okay. And just so the board understands, this item is really just on the agenda to provide direction for county staff when the payments due next month. So they're going to make up the difference based on subtracting whatever's come in.
Certainly, we've got to make the payment the total amount of $103,000. If money comes in that would offset that, that's fine. We have a balance of the last payment of 60-some thousand, so it just kind of will go in a spreadsheet that we'll show you, that we'll keep track of. But at the August payment, y'all wanted to know what we were going to do for February, so that's what, that's the money that we have in hand right now. Anything that comes in, we'll certainly add that to it, and it would, even though we've written the check, it would just go back into
back
to general fund. So
it can be applied to the 60,000, it makes no difference.
Right, they don't
Keep
play
the
where
total- the running total.
We'll just keep
and
a running
anything
total,
comes in
that's correct.
Just select from those amounts.
That's correct. When they bring us the check, it'll go. We'll keep it right in a spreadsheet. We'll send it out an updated sheet once we get some money.
Okay, and they're supposed to open the, what, March?
Yeah, they're working to get Mark Warner to be one of the keynote speakers at the grand opening, and so they're trying to work out a date where he will be here to make that. I am, Jeff, you may have some numbers that I can contact Rob Whitman, because I'd like to have Rob Whitman there as well for the grand opening celebration. So if you can give me that number so I can reach them.
I can do that.
Okay. And the other thing you didn't mention is that you're working on actual naming rights.
Yes,
For
the naming right process is getting underway heavily now, and so we expect that to really come into play.
And the foundation is meeting, or met yesterday or?
Today.
Today, okay.
3.5 hours today, I went over that.
All right, we're going to get some, we'll get an update from the foundation. Okay. Mrs. Black?
Can I just throw a hypothetical out here? What would happen if we didn't make the payment? The $103,000?
We would be defaulted on the debt, which is also other borrowing that was in there as well.
Is that, borrowing for the school?
That was all
And
part
the
of the same
ambulance.
thing. The 103 is just the why part of it. We'd be making the rest of it out of regular, appropriations that we already had for the debt. So, but it'd still be a default on the whole amount.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a comment here. Maybe I'm the only dissenting vote, but to me, this is a giant slap in the face. I'll just be blunt. This is a giant slap in the face. We allowed last time a foundation to come in front of us that said that they were going to raise money. And last time when the YMCA was here, I went through methodically, talked about 6 different organizations or 5 different organizations that were supposed to be raising capital for this thing. We say we're going to get a payment next time. We've heard that several times. We're paying interest only on a YMCA. At my constituent meeting, and I don't think I was wrong in this, I said that the YMCA was going to be an $8 million YMCA. And the last time when closing comments, there was a supervisor that challenged me on that. And I would like to justify that comment because we're paying $1 million in interest only. $1 million, is that correct? Is that correct? $1 million in interest only.
5 years at $200,000.
5 years at $200,000 is $1 million, interest only. Okay? We granted them $5 million. So there's $6 million. Now, if the money is not raised, $5 million is not raised, we have to finance it. If you finance $5 million, you're not going to pay $5 million back. Correct? I mean, you buy a house for $170,000, which I bought it for. I think I'm paying the bank back $300,000. So we're paying $8 million to this YMCA. So I'd like to kind of go back 6 months ago when a comment was made on that. No question a YMCA is a good thing. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is we were sold a bill of goods. And I have a hard time just kind of ignoring that. No taxpayer money was going to be used. No taxpayer money was going to be used. Taxpayer money is being used. $103,000, $206,000 is 1 penny on our tax rate. Interest only, not paying for a brick. The second thing that I'd like to know from the foundation or from someone is the naming rights. So if, let's say, someone comes up with $1 million to donate to the YMCA, is that going directly to the capital or is that going to operation? Is that money that's donated, is that going to come as a check to the YMCA to pay down the capital, or does that go towards operating? Do we know that answer?
Yes, we do know that.
It's capital.
Capital.
100%.
That's correct.
The other thing, one more, if someone today takes out their checkbook and wants to donate $1,000 to the Caroline YMCA, is it going to interest only, or is it going to capital?
It's up to this board as to what they want to do. We're trying to make it so that it does not cost the taxpayers any money. You're saying that the interest only. That has to be made up somehow. That has to be paid. This money's not going to just fall out of the sky that pays interest only. We have to pay that until it is refinanced, and then you get to paying the principal. Yeah, it would go against the interest. So it will not cost the taxpayers any money. It would be $1,000 less that would come to the taxpayers.
But if the person donates $1,000 and it goes towards capital, it's actually paying for something. As opposed to, it's going to interest only, it's not paying for anything.
It is keeping the people of Caroline County not having to pay $1,000. Yes, it's going for something. It's going for something.
Okay. That's my...
Thank you, Mr. Black.
I would just like to see in writing from the YMCA that the naming rights is going to go to capital.
I mean, that's no problem.
Because it's not in the contract, just like the interest only in the contract, any money donated, the $5 million was the maximum the county was to provide, maximum. Any money donated decremented off the $5 million. That's in the contract. But I would like to see something in writing from the YMCA saying that all the naming rights dollars are going to go to capital.
I think if,
That's no problem.
we'll ask.
I will get that in writing.
We'll ask Mr. Akers to get that from the Y. And I understand the frustration of board members on both sides of the issue. And I think making this payment minus whatever we have is probably close to the end of our patience tolerance area. So in August, when we come back, there should be a lot of naming rights and a lot of money collected, or there'll probably be a long discussion about what we do. And I think that's really what everybody's saying. So
It's been a long discussion every time we've discussed this today. This long discussion has been going on for over a year, Mr. Thomas. It's just not been tonight, and it hasn't been just 6 months ago. That's been going on for over a year now. And it will continue to go on over something. And so that's it.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Mr. Akers.
Wait. You address your comments back to the chair. Mr. Underwood had actually didn't say, I want the floor, but he had actually started to speak next. So we'll let him go, and then Mr. Seeley's going to go, and then we all are going to go.
Mr. Chairman, my comment regarding the YMCA is, again, as Mr. Black stated, I don't think we have an issue about the value of the YMCA. I just wish we had more information that we could have given to the citizens so they would understand what the ramifications are. And I don't think we fully understood, certainly I did not understand from the beginning that we would possibly be going down this road. Now that we are down this road, the fact that the YMCA is going to belong to Caroline County, so you don't get something for nothing. And I think that's one of the realities. It would be nice if the capital campaign raised enough money, but I've worked with YMCAs in Richmond when I first moved to Virginia. I've witnessed how they can help change a community. Again, I wish we were in different circumstances. I was one of the board members that voted in favor of YMCA. Had I dug a little deeper, peeled the onion back a little deeper, then I would have gotten to where we are now a little quicker and had that conversation. Didn't have that conversation, So that falls squarely upon my shoulders. So I have to face my constituents and say that at this point it is costing us. However, our goal yet is to recoup the funds so that it does not cost the taxpayers any money. Is it costing, are we using county funds right now? Yes, we are. That's a fact. That is absolute fact. So I can understand certainly Mr. Black's frustration. I can understand Mr. Seeley's frustration. I'm frustrated myself, but I do know that I do see light at the end of the tunnel because that was my commitment to the folks that I represent. So I'm going to run as hard as I can continually to say that I'm going to do all that I can to make sure that we recoup the funds for the YMCA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. So obviously the board is going to vote as to whether we give you the payment or not. We didn't do that, did we? Would we like to do that? Doesn't require it. It was more informational.
We've budgeted the payment. The revenue is not there because the revenue was budgeted to come from an outside source. So to actually write the check, I have the authority to do it. I'm just letting you know
that you
I don't have the revenue, and it's ultimately going to come out of the general fund until such time as it's, checks are brought in to cover it. So it really doesn't require that. It's not a vote.
Well, thank you. I'd be happy to move on then. All right, thank you for the information, Mr. Cully. That brings us to the county administrator's report or informational calendar items you'd like to give us.
We included some information that had come up, you had requested from the Commissioner of Revenue on proration of your vehicle. If you do have it already in the system and have proven your 100,000 miles, you wouldn't have to necessarily give your next inspection, but there are multiple breaks up to, I think, 250,000 miles, so you get a little bit more up until then. So if you don't bring it in, you're not going to get credit. So say if you went from 100 to the next break point, you wouldn't get that next break point. So that's why they asked everybody to bring their current inspection in up until 250, because my car's got 308, and they said I was over I wasn't going to get any more discount. So I didn't need to bring the inspection in anymore so that's sort of how that works. And she included some things about what you need to file and when you need to file it by. But that's why they do continue to ask for that inspection, because there's, I think, 3 break points on the high mileage.
All right, before you leave there, I asked you that because I had a constituent ask why did they have to bring their 100,000 mile in every time. So they really don't have to bring it every time. There are different breaks in there. Okay.
Correct. If they don't bring it in, say they were at 110,000 and there's the next break's 150. If they don't bring it in, they're just going to keep getting the same discount for 110 until such time they bring it in and prove they're over the next break point.
And then that leaves it up to the constituent to get the next break if they so desire. Okay.
That is correct.
Which we, of course, haven't published much, have we?
We'll put it on the website again.
If we can get those from the county, from the Commissioner of Revenue, then we'd at least know and we could pass those on, which is an information issue we have. Okay.
We can do that. The next regular meeting, I don't think we have anything. Where did I lose that at? Sorry. Oh, personal property forms are due February 1st. February's elderly relief month, and business licenses are due March 1st. Those are the important dates that the commissioner wanted me to remind everybody of once we asked about the personal property. Next meeting is the 11th, and local government day is February 6th in Richmond. Alan and I will be attending. I think that's all we have on the calendar at this time. We did put out some information that tourism's doing with Port Royal, the library, and some other community partners for Black History Awareness Month for February, and I've seen some of the things come posted on that. We sent that out to everybody last month. All the board got that update, and so we're working with some partners in the community to make some historic sites available and some things like that.
Okay. Anything else?
Do you have a Farm Bureau date for the Farm Bureau Board of Directors?
Mrs. Hall asked that. That's on our agenda to discuss.
Linwood is here. Have you,
He said March. He was looking at March 7th, I want to say. No.
I have a note to myself
think
in
it's
my
like March
pocket to
4th.
work this out.
Mrs. Hall sent us something. Our regular meeting is on the 11th. Did we do it the day before the meeting? So we would go there on the 10th and then have a board meeting on the 11th.
I just tried to schedule
I don't think it matters specifically how it relates to the board meeting. We've always tried to coordinate around board meetings so it
Right.
doesn't conflict. Mr. Broadus and them have usually been very good as far as working around what we suggest.
Okay. Well, since we're there, and I forgot it on the thing, can we check our calendars to see what March 4th, 10th, or 11th looks like? Is that too far out in the open? And this is the meeting with Farm Bureau and Port Royal where they... Wayne, does that look good for you?
Right now, I'm good for that.
Mr. Black, we'd have to have it after school hours, of course, so 6 or 7. Mr. Taylor, how's that look for you? So you're busy, right? So you're busy. Well, that's what people that retire say. When they retire, they get busier. See, that's because you're used to working for the school system. See, here in the private sector, we fly in this kind of stuff. All right? I've been de-iced in Pittsburgh, so trust me, it's not fun. All right, so we're going to try March 4th. That's what we're going to look for. We'll shoot for them on March 4th. All right. Mr. Taylor wants us to go, so we're going to do closing board comments. Mr. Taylor.
I have none.
Oh, thanks for the help. Mr. Black?
None.
Mr. Underwood from Indiana, he can take as long as he wants.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do. I read an article to the editor, letter to the editor in the Carolina Progress this week, and it had to do with Durrett Road.
Again?
And I'm not sure whether the mother of the guy that sent you the letter several weeks ago, Mr. Miller, indicated that I'd said that we were going to pave a section of the road and skip a section of the road and then pave another section of the road. And that's not what was said. What was said was the first section of the road would be by the developer, which would be widened and paid for by the developer. The last section of the road would be widened and paid for by the developer because it attaches to his South River project. But the middle of the section of those two developer sections had to be paid by the state in place. And it would not be done, be widened. It was because they couldn't get the right of way from the landowners through there. So it was not the fact that I was saying that they were going to pay part, leave the other dirt, and then pay the other part at all. And so I just wanted to respond to that, and hopefully if she's watching this, she'll know that that's what was said, and basically what you wrote in the paper as to what was taking place.
I thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Sealy?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
I have a lot, and I've been de-iced, like I said, in Pittsburgh, Detroit, a whole bunch of places. One quick one, I would like to invite the new chamber president, Mary Pitts, and the business person of the year, Vito Amato, to our board meeting in February so we can acknowledge them. We may not have a chance to get Mr. Amato since he actually works, but if we can, that would be nice. He or his wife. And we're going to start talking, one of the board members said something before about maintenance and going through the warrants and the amount of maintenance we have on county vehicles. And we need to seriously start talking about combining maintenance with the school system. If we do have to hire our own mechanics, it may end up cheaper in the long run. And everyone knows cheaper in the long run is what we're trying to do and more efficient. So we'll try to do that. And if Mrs. Hall could work to get a 2-on-2 with the schools, we'll try to broach that with them then. And it's getting close to time to talk to Mr. Schiebel about the county's water plan. Right. Okay, well, we want to talk about that in March, at our first meeting in March. So we can talk about it for sure. And the last thing is, we need more information on the county's ability to limit, allow, prohibit fracking as it becomes closer. We don't know if we really have any say-so. It may go the same way as biosolids. The state says do it, and we have no control. But we'd like to know what we can do now. All right, that seems to be it. Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Please. Second. Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Taylor. Not sure we want to go yet, Calvin. All in favor, say aye.